Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us. Team Mosso at the1916company.com. It is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email inquiry line for inquiring about this or any watch you see on our platforms. Please reach out to us directly for pricing. Team Mosso at the1916company.com. Today we're discussing a 2021 launch from a brand that has quietly crept into my top 5, maybe top 3 favorite brands in the world. From Glashütte, we have Moritz Grossmann, named after a famous luminary of German watchmaking. This company actually came about in the heart of the financial crisis back in 2008, founded by watchmaker and entrepreneur Christine Hutter, and it is one of the best kept secrets in the entire watch space. Essentially, imagine a Lange und Söhne with more soul, like the company's first couple of years in the 90s, and you can realize what Moritz Grossmann is like today. This is the 2021 Tremblage, which takes everything they've done so well from a movement standpoint and adds a dial with equal charisma. So let's talk about the basics. First of all, rose gold case, 41 millimeters in diameter, 11.8 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip. It's actually fairly broad at 50.3 millimeters, and then a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Being less than 12 millimeters thick, it is still reasonably slender and functions well as a dress watch. Broad across the wrist. I will recommend that you have a wrist my size or larger to wear it, so 16 centimeters circumference and up. You can see what I mean when I say it slides easily under a cuff. It has a sloped case flank and a relatively low profile. Here's your over-the-top shot, which always exaggerates the width of the watch. And then you have the down the barrel, which I find is the most definitive shot depicting a watch's fit. Really solid feeling watch that looks as good as it feels. The strap, high grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather, dark brown, semi-gloss. You can see there's a little bit of bolstering to give it volume. It has a folded edge on the bottom. We have calf skin. You can see the calf skin featuring no crimping, no gouging. This is a Moritz Grossmann factory strap. And to allow the lugs to be drilled relatively close to the case, you can see a curved spring bar is used, so there's no impediment to the motion of the strap. The case is beautiful and subtly beautiful. You can see how the lugs right here have a super sharp junction with the case band. They also feature 1, 2, 3 exterior facets, and each one of those facets has a sharp crease line where it joins the case. Now, because this is old school welded lug construction, the case and the lugs made separate. The lugs inserted into slots in the case band, and then all the gathered material from the weld removed by hand with a file to create these super sharp breaks. And you can see how this one is actually curved, and the lugs have a pronounced inward inflection or concave profile. So while the case looks simple at first glance, it's actually quite complex. You can also see it has a teapot-like sort of tumble home from the base up to the top, and that the bezel is very spare, domed, and minimal in profile when viewed from the front. It's almost like a rose gold halo and a little more. The lugs have a large and strong presence, giving this watch a lot of visual steel, and I mean that in the metaphorical, not in the metallurgical sense. It has a lot of strength visually. The crown, in vintage fashion, has been deliberately left unbranded. We have a unique system for hacking the watch. So you probably noticed on a lot of watches, you pull the crown out, you set the time, you push the crown in, the hands move. That's a real problem. So Moritz Grossmann came up with a solution to that. There is a hacking function, and you pull the crown out and it immediately snaps back in via spring action. The watch is stopped. The balance is halted. All I do is I set to whatever time I want. Let's say I want to set to 4:10, easy to do. No crown to push back in, it's already back in. I will press the re-engage button, and now everything jumps back into action. So I can set the watch precisely with no hazard of displacing that minute hand. It works as a hacking seconds, but it's also a super precise setting system. Now, the dial is made of German silver, so an alloy of nickel, copper, zinc. Traditionally, this was used on German movements in the era before rhodium-plated brass. And being nickel, copper, and zinc, you probably recall that's more or less what's used to make guitar frets. So it's a very resilient material that doesn't need to be plated to resist oxidation or tarnish over time, though it will grow darker with time. Its champagne-like hue is the product of the copper content. Now, take a look at the track outboard, the railroad style track. Take a look at the numerals, the marquee, and the scale for the seconds. All of that is integral with the dial. You can see made in Germany. Everything on this dial is monoblock with the exception of the hands. That is, these elements are relieved from the base. They rise up, but they are integral with the dial. They are black polished, beautiful Breguet style numerals here. And then the rest features a rustic chiseled pattern or tremblage. And the name is, of course, from French and essentially means to tremble and create small indentations. And that is really the effect you're getting. Now, Moritz Grossmann, they make and finish their hands in-house. So you could see these beautifully spare, polished, and oxidized hands first cut, then rounded off and mirror polished by hand, and then finally fired for a shorter period than you would need to get blue. If you pull the hands from the heat before they turn blue, you got to time it right. You got to even out the heat and the oxygen across the surface, but you get this bewitching and beautiful violet brown. And you'll see it again on the reverse of the case, where this is the same treatment that's been applied to the case back screws. Now you can see we have a vintage look right here because we're paying homage to the earliest days of guilloche, and back then, in the late 18th and in the 19th century, you would not have Streifen or Côte de Genève. You would have a sort of frosted bridge profile, a three-quarter bridge with the barrel and the train under a single mono bridge, and then freehand engraving on the balance cock and the cock for the escape wheel. So here we have this lovely frosting. We have triple solarization on the steel ratchet wheel. We have a black polished click right here, and you can see how it winds. It's actually a spring-loaded, articulated, extensible black polished click. Look carefully and you can see that the teeth, let me see if I can capture this here, the teeth of the crown wheel as well as the ratchet wheel have been micro-finished on their edge. We have a black polished crown wheel core. Notice all the jewels are they're not synthetic rubies, they're pure corundum, sapphires without any contaminant element to make them clear to fit the pale aesthetic of the watch. You can also see one of the finest qualities of this watch, which is that everything on the bridge, all the characters, have been freehand engraved with a burr. So you could see that all of the lettering and the numerals, all of that done by hand. We do have mirrored anglage or beveling. You can see it on the edge of the bridges. And you can see how elaborately these structures are finished with the engraving of florisant or a floral pattern, like banknote scrolling on two different levels here. We have a micrometric precision screw index. This is primarily used for beat error correction. We will once again go to our stop seconds function and take a look at the balance, which has variable inertia masses that can be used for most of the timing adjustment. Effectively, it works like a free-sprung system for shock resistance and precision of adjustment. You can see there is a Breguet overcoil hairspring, and the watch is adjusted in a chronometer and high horology style 5 positions. So in every position, due to the adjustment and the centered mass of the hairspring, it will keep very consistent time. The balance, which you can see is highly sophisticated, is Moritz Grossmann's own design and fabrication. I don't know how well you could see this, but I can see it quite well in person. But the interior of the train wheels, beveled. You can see the interior circumference and the spokes of the center wheel have been interior beveled, and we have these little golden chaton cups holding the drivetrain, because these little cups, that's how you would precision set jewels back in the 19th century. You'd create a precision golden chaton, press the jewel into that, and then fix it into the bridges and the plates using screws. And you can see those screws are exquisitely crafted with beautifully violet brown hued tempering, but then there's more. Their slots and their circumferences have been chamfered into a pie pan like shape. A really special watch, 30 meters water resistant, so it's not an aquatic watch, but I guess you can't do everything all the time. This watch, though, is the kind of watch you will want to wear all the time. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. Actually, 2 more quick facts, because I don't think I mentioned it, but this watch beats away at a stately 18,000 vibrations per hour, and it has a 42-hour manual wind power reserve.